The story begins in a forgotten junkyard on the outskirts of Detroit, where a dusty black coupe sat between crushed steel and abandoned memories. To the world, it was just another relic from the 80s. A cheap, unwanted Buick that nobody cared about anymore. But the truth was darker, louder, and far more unbelievable. This wasn't an ordinary car. This was the ghost of a machine that once terrified supercars, embarrassed millionaires, and rewrote American performance history. And somehow, someone was about to resurrect it for just $1,000. Before the GNX became a junkyard myth, it was a legend that didn't fit its own body. A boxy, unassuming Buick Grand National transformed into a monster with one purpose: silently destroy anything that dared line up next to it. In the mid-80s, when Ferrari, Porsche, and Lamborghini believed they had the world's fastest street machines, a quiet team inside Buick created something that made them look like children playing with expensive toys. They called it the GNX. 3 letters that would soon haunt supercar owners. The rise of the GNX didn't begin with style or beauty. It began with humiliation. For decades, Buick had been known as the grandpa brand, the soft, comfortable car company that made big couches on wheels. Nobody expected them to build a supercar killer. But that was exactly why it worked. Because when the GNX first pulled up at drag strips, no one took it seriously. They laughed at it. They mocked it. And then they watched it disappear. The secret wasn't brute horsepower alone. It was the turbo. Back when American manufacturers thought V8s were the only way to win, Buick engineers believed forced induction could rewrite the rules. A V6 engine with a turbocharger wasn't supposed to beat Italian supercars. And yet, with stealthy black paint, minimal badges, and a sinister stance, the GNX quietly pulled off one of the greatest embarrassments in performance history. At launch, it hit 0 to 60 faster than a Ferrari 328. It crushed Corvettes. It outgunned Mustangs and Camaros without breaking a sweat. It became known as the Darth Vader of cars. A villain with good reason, but as quickly as it dominated, the GNX vanished. GM killed the program. The final production number was just 547 units. Less than 600 cars, and then the legend ended. No follow-up model. No evolution. Nothing. And that vacuum created something Buick never expected, an underground culture that refused to let the GNX die. The real story begins when these cars started falling into the hands of street racers. Young, hungry, determined drivers who didn't care about brand image, didn't care about luxury, and definitely didn't care about rules. They cared about one thing. Speed. Raw, dirty, undeniable speed. The GNX's turbocharged V6 became the perfect canvas. Cheap to upgrade. Stupidly powerful when tuned. Almost invisible to the police. And best of all, capable of beating cars 10 times its price. This is where our Junkyard GNX comes in. The legend says the owner found it wrecked, abandoned, and stripped. The original interior torn out, the wheels mismatched, the turbo missing. But the frame still had its GNX stamp. It didn't matter that it was ugly. All that mattered was that the heart of the beast was still alive. So he handed over the cash, $1,000, and began something nobody expected, the rebirth of a ghost. He didn't restore it to factory condition. No. This wasn't a museum project. This was revenge. Revenge for the forgotten legends of American engineering. Revenge for every supercar owner who smirked at the word Buick. He wanted to build something that could make the world's fastest cars tremble again. An underground GNX culture gave him the blueprint. The first step was the turbo. The original GNX turbo was strong, but the community had evolved way beyond Buick's 1987 engineering. Tuners were now strapping massive, high-flow turbos onto old GNX blocks and producing power numbers that would have seemed insane back then. Our junkyard builder installed a hybrid turbo setup, part modern engineering, part old-school madness. Boost levels that would make most engines cry. But the GNX was born for pressure. Then came the suspension. The GNX's suspension was revolutionary for its time, developed with ASC/McLaren, designed to launch with maximum grip. But the underground racers had taken things even further. Custom torque arms, anti-hop bars, revised geometry, everything to make sure no power was wasted. Because on the streets, 1/10 of a second could mean everything. The engine tuning scene was where the GNX truly became a monster. Using modern fuel systems, modern ECUs, and race-grade injectors, these rebuilt GNXs were now pushing 600, 700, even 1,000 horsepower. All from a V6 that most experts used to laugh at. And with every upgrade, the Junkyard GNX began to breathe again. It stopped being a project. It became a threat. Word spread. People heard rumors of a mysterious GNX roaming Detroit nights. No paint. No shine. Just primer black panels and mismatched wheels. But when it launched, it left behind a sound that chilled people. A turbo scream that echoed like a whistle of death. The first victim was a new Mustang GT. A confident driver, proud of his 5.0, revving loudly at a stoplight. The GNX didn't rev back. It didn't need to. The light turned green, and the Mustang driver watched a car older than his father vanish ahead of him. At the next light, he rolled down his window and asked, "What the hell is in that thing?" The answer was simple. History. But the GNX didn't stop there. Next came the Corvettes. Then the Camaros. Then the imported cars, tuned Civics and Subaru WRXs. And once the underground realized what this junkyard Buick was doing, it gained a nickname, the $1,000 Supercar Slayer. People couldn't believe a car built for pocket change was humiliating machines worth $80,000, $150,000, even $250,000. But the peak came when a wealthy exotic car owner challenged it on a closed industrial road. He brought a Ferrari 458 Italia, mid-engine, high-revving, hand-built, a machine praised as one of the best Ferraris ever made. People said the GNX wouldn't stand a chance. That technology had moved too far ahead. That the Buick was nothing but nostalgia. The race lasted less than 10 seconds. The GNX launched with a violent roar. The turbo screamed. The rear tires clawed into the pavement. And by the time the Ferrari hit second gear, the Buick was already multiple car lengths ahead. People watching couldn't process it. How could a $1,000 wreck do this? How was this possible? The Ferrari owner demanded another run. Same result. Then another. Same result again. 3 times, a battered Buick from a junkyard destroyed a $250,000 supercar. That night, the GNX legend wasn't just reborn. It was reborn with fire. But legends, especially ones this powerful, never stay underground forever. Police started hearing about it. Racing crews started hunting it, wanting to either beat it or buy it. And the tuner world, always hungry for a new icon, began asking the ultimate question: how long before this ghost disappears again? Because the GNX's biggest strength was also its weakness. It wasn't a mass-produced car. It wasn't supported by modern engineering teams. It relied on passion, skill, and community knowledge. And every time it raced, it risked everything. One blown turbo. One snapped driveshaft. One crash. And the story would end forever. Eventually, the GNX stopped showing up. Some say the owner retired it after too many close calls. Some say it blew its engine during a brutal high-boost run. Others believe it simply disappeared, sold quietly to someone who promised to protect the legend, but one thing is certain, that $1,000 junkyard GNX didn't just beat supercars. It revived the entire legacy of Buick's forgotten monster. It proved that engineering brilliance doesn't need $1 million badge. That raw American ingenuity can still terrify the elite. And that legends never truly die, they just wait in junkyards for someone brave enough to bring them back to life. Because somewhere out there, under dust and rust, another GNX might be waiting for the next person who knows exactly what it is, a dark, silent reminder that the most dangerous machines are never the ones you expect.